Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sport Federation TV, where every week we take a look with what's happening with sport in the Western Cape and the various sport federations that are, of course, structured in the province and across the districts, and, of course, involved with sport on a national or international level. As you know, of course, we've spoken to Boyce Lloyd from Shore Angling on a number of occasions, and tonight we've got a number of other fantastic sports segments. We're going to talk to boxing. Western Cape Boxing is going to be on the show with us, and we're going to find out what's happening in the world of gymnastics. And of course, this weekend up at the West Coast, it is in fact the Western Cape Farm Workers Annual Sports Day, and we'll speak to the Farm Workers Chairperson, Mr. David Mines, a little bit later during the course of the show. But joining me now, Boyce Lloyd, Boyce from Western Cape Shore Angling. Boyce, welcome to Federation TV again.
Good evening, JP.
Yeah, Boyce, so the last time we spoke to you, you guys were on your way to the Nationals. I think you were having a rather... I think the weather is a little bit better now than you had up on the West Coast the last time we chatted, but another big event coming for you guys.
Yeah, JP, I mean, it's the height of the season. So our inter-club, so in Western Province, we are organized 7 clubs in the province, and these clubs compete against each other on 8 occasions. We've got 2 of those occasions, or inter-club competitions on the West Coast, and we've got 2 in Struisbaai, 1 at the Dam, and then we've got 3 in Valsbaai. And what happens is the clubs compete against each other for the year-end trophies and best fish and most fish and biggest edibles, etc. There's lots of prizes and awards, but you're also competing individually. And what you're competing for is a spot in the Western Province teams. And the divisions are the under-16s, the under-21s, the Senior A, Senior B. There's a development team as well. There's the Masters for the over 50s, and then there's also the Grandmasters over 60s. We often joke a little bit and say that your requirement to make the Grandmasters team is to survive beyond 60. But what happens during the course of the year is that at an individual level, during these interclubs, you compete and you generate points with the fish that you catch. And based on those points, if you wish to nominate to make one of those Western Province teams that compete at the Nationals, at the end of the year, those points are accumulated and they are compiled 50% of your points of the last year, 30% the previous year, and 20% of 3 years ago. And that gives you your ranking points. And on that basis, you nominate to be considered by the selectors for one of those teams that I've mentioned, whether it's the under-16 team or under-21 team or the senior team. Now, what happens now is that you nominate, and the selectors look at those people that have nominated, and they look at your points. But then there is a trials day, and that is what's happening this Saturday. It's happening at Macassar Beach at the Palkies. If people want to come around and watch a bit, it happens at 8 o'clock Palkies on Macassar Beach. And the selectors you will basically, as an angler, you will stand for inspection. So the guys will look at your kit. They will ask you to make certain baits. They will confront you with certain information. You are standing on a rock. The wind is blowing southeast, and the temperature of the water is 19 degrees. And this is the bait that you've got. What are you going to throw? What are you going to try and catch? And then they will ask you to make up the bait.
So do you actually have a theoretical side to the competition as well? So do the athletes have to do a bit of studying?
Well, I mean, they can ask a friend, they can ask for some assistance, but certainly they have to prepare. So their tackle will be inspected, their traces, their hooks, their snoots, all of the equipment that they are likely to use will be inspected. So certainly they have to prepare for that. And of course, they will be asked questions and they will need to provide feedback. But there's also a practical side to it. So, for example, you will stand there and you'll be ready to throw a bait, and a selector will come with a knife and he will cut up your traces, and then they will time you to see how quickly you can put everything back.
So you've got a bit of a pressure test at the same time.
So and then on the casting as well. So on casting, you will be measured. So you will be casting, but it's not just a piece of lead or a sinker that you'll throw. You'll throw a bait, and you'll be measured as to how far you can cast it. But also there will be casting in terms of accuracy. So it's not always how far you cast, but it's how accurate you cast. So a
Right.
flag will be planted, and then you'll also be tested in terms of how accurate you can cast.
So I'm quite curious when you talk about the competitors on the day, and they actually getting questioned by the inspectors. I'm assuming that you need to know your the location that you're going to fish, and the weather, and what the fish are likely to be biting on that day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is you will know in which area your specific team, the nationals, will be held. So, for example, the Masters will be held in Jeffreys Bay. The senior A's, their competition location is going to be in Strathspey, so they know where they're going, and they can prepare for that. The selectors will ask them and say, "Look, you're going to the Strathspey area. Yes, there are different areas in Strathspey, but generally, name us the top 5 species of fish that you will be targeting in that area, and what you will
Right.
use to go and target them from a bait presentation perspective and from a tackle perspective."
So do you, with I mean, with your athletes that are competing here? I mean, a lot of you guys have got national colors. You've obviously competed against some international teams, but you've got under 16s. I mean, you've got a number of athletes that are coming there to compete, that have come from different clubs and so on. But is it a scenario where you can actually have a favorite? Because one generally seems to think that fishing is just whoever gets the luckiest on the day. But do you have a top challenger? Can you be?
Look, I mean, the selection criteria. So if you look at the 18, for example, there are 12 members that goes into the 18, based on your points of the last 3 years. There's a certain number of anglers that comes into the team regardless of being a favorite or favorite. Yeah, there's. I mean, I haven't seen that happening before, but really, it's based on the points. So, for
Yeah.
example, if there are 12 spots, the first 9 spots will be occupied by people that have got the top 9 points. What
Right.
also comes into consideration is the points that they've had at their national champions in prior years. So essentially, let's say there are 3 spots open, and that's really where there is where the selectors can apply their judgment. So there might be 3 spots open, and there are 6 anglers that they would like to have that spot, and that's where it's not just based on the angler being on number 11, but the angler that is number 14 or 15 may also be allowed into that, based on what the selectors think.
Now, you mentioned earlier on, because I'm also curious to know what kind of fish the guys are going to be pulling out on the weekend. You mentioned earlier on things like edibles. I would have assumed all fish are edible, but maybe can you explain that to us?
Well, I mean, this weekend is not really about fishing. It's there will be some fishing that we will do, but you got to take into account that it's Valspy and it's winter, so there's very little fish around. In
Yeah.
any case, the sort of fish that we would normally target from a competition uh, perspective. So very little of those fish that'll be around. So it's not really about
Yeah.
the fishing. It's about demonstrating your capability. It's
Oh,
about
right.
demonstrating
Okay.
how you can put on your bait, how quickly you can do your knots.
Oh, then I've misunderstood things a little bit. Obviously, the world of fishing much more complicated than a layman like me.
We're going to be on the beach probably 3 or 4 hours, and you'll be in the water towards the back end of that for maybe 30 minutes or so, just to
Yeah.
say that I've put a bait into the water. But
Right.
the summer fish, our sand sharks and our blue rays and the type of fish that we normally fish in summer, that's where our season starts in September and it stops in April.
Right.
By May, June, the water has really cooled down, and the fish that we typically target as they have migrated.
I suppose one of the obvious questions that any fan will be asking is, with the weather that's been so harsh in Cape Town, in particular in the last sort of 10 days, and we've seen really cold temperatures and obviously lots of rain and waves in False Bay. We know that the swell was quite high there. Will you guys continue? Is it the kind of thing that could stop your event?
No, not really, because we're not fishing. Yeah, so no. I mean, it's you'll put a black bag. We've got good equipment. I mean, we are used to being out there and wet and cold, so that's not really issue. If you're fishing on the west coast, you're standing in waters of 12, 13, 14 degrees Celsius for 8 hours at a time. So the guys have got wetsuits as well. So the weather. Wind, rain, hail, snow is not going to keep us away from this weekend. But from a conditions, as I said, from a fishing conditions, we're not fishing. There might be some of the guys are saying, look, I'm here, I've got bait, I'm going to make a flow for half an hour or so. But it's more about the inspection piece, and make a bait and cut off and cast a distance and what we call spot. So see how accurate you can be.
Is it also an opportunity to gain a bit of experience for when the athletes actually do go out and look for the big one?
No, not really. I mean, as I said, they're not going to look for the big one, but it's certainly. I mean, you're going to have very experienced anglers there. That know their stuff, and they will need to prepare a bait, and the people will actually see. And one of the clubs have, in fact, the Four Oceans Club have asked whether they can videotape some of those bait preparations so they can share that with their members. So it's a very good opportunity for the guys to actually steal with their eyes and learn.
Boys, it sounds fascinating. Clearly, I need a lot more education in the world of fishing, and the way that you've explained it now, I'm hoping that all the viewers understand it as well, and maybe even get down then to Macassar this weekend and come and see you guys in action.
Macassar at the Palkies at 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
that's where the guys will be.
Good luck. We hope the weather plays ball. That we know that you guys are unstoppable, but we hope that you have sunny days.
We're not scared of the weather.
Thanks, boys. There we go, folks. Boyce Lloyd, of course, from Western Cape Shore Angling. Fascinating, the understanding of the technical side of shore angling there as well. So get down then. Get down to Macassar this Saturday at 8 a.m. and go and watch and support your athletes. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about sport in the province. Back in a sec.